You are listening to an MLGA Network podcast. Welcome to Make Liberty Great Again, the best damn Liberty podcast that you've never heard of. I'll be your guide as we peer into the ridiculous reality that is our society and our government. Let's get to it. Welcome to Make Liberty Great Again. I'm your host, Cam Harless, and with me today there are a couple of good people. We've got from the Voluntary Vixens on our own MLGA network, Miss Maddie. And today we've got the young Ripper. We've got the lead singer, the lead screamer, whatever you want to call it, of Backwordz. You know who he is. I'm talking about Eric July. So welcome, Eric. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me, man.
Thanks for letting me tag along too.
But yeah, I'll say this again, even though we talked about it just a few minutes ago. But my first ever interview with someone that was actually cool on my show was you 3 years ago, and then the audio situation didn't work, so I've got a backup plan. But yeah, I just wanted to have you back on to chat, and I wanted to have our favorite Black Nazi sympathizer on the show.
Everyone needs one.
I mean,
let the loser brigade tell it, man. That's like the perfect definition of it.
I figured tomorrow is Juneteenth, so we might as well have you on.
Absolutely perfect. I love it. I absolutely love it.
And what's funny is Talib Kweli, the first time I ever heard his name, because I'm a little white boy from Alabama, was when he started posting that doctored screenshot of you saying that Nazis can be libertarian, conveniently leaving out the whole argument. And then, was it last week when Sarwark decided to jump on you for that too?
Yeah, he decided to jump his silly behind on it. And it's so hilarious because it backfired for him because he thought that his was going to be a great time to kiss the behind of Talib Kweli just for the sake of attacking myself as well as Tom Woods during that period of time. And out of all of that, Talib Kweli ended up calling him racist, Nicholas Sarwark. So it's just funny how it's like that whole kind of ordeal really proves what I've said about those types is that they can't be reasoned with. Nothing that you can say, nothing that you can generally do is going to stop them from calling you whatever silly derogatory name that they want to call you. And that little point right there proved it because he tried his damnedest to really just latch on to that and try to knock me for it. And out of all of that, and he ends up getting called racist and Talib Kweli attacks him. So that was hilarious to see that kind of unfold and blow up right in his face.
Oh yeah, like that was my first thought when I saw it. I was like, this white boy, this guy who's pretending to be libertarian and is definitely more on the left is going to try to suck the toes of some famous person and it blew up. And that was probably my favorite moment because every now and then I go on Twitter and I see that same screenshot and that same nonsense. And so I couldn't not know about that. But when Sarwark does anything stupid, I'm always there. I love it.
Yeah. Nah, man. It pops up like that. That screenshot pops up every now and then. And yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like no amount of, to the people that generally want to continue to use it, no amount of explanation, no amount of actual context. I provided the video evidence, all of that. They don't care about that. It's just, they're in the business of just trying to do what they can. And I know it hurts them so much because they attempt to do this like every six months and it doesn't work. Like it doesn't work. You're like, all right, we're going to for sure, have him, he's going to be blown off the orbit, right? Because of this doctor screenshot that we're going to continue to share down and it just never works. And I know that really makes them angry because they continue to do it. It continues not to work. But that's the only thing that they have. So they do what they can, and they lose a brigade on the left side of these. Well, I'm not even gonna call them libertarians. They might call themselves libertarians. But they try to, put that deal out there, that screenshot out there again and again and again, and it continues to fail in terms of it does not knock me like they think that it knocked me, especially considering that, I have the receipts. I have all of the actual, the context and everything. I got the proof that photo was doctored, and so forth. They're just not interested in it because they're only interested in really just trying to down talk, knock my name and so forth. And if that's what they want to do, that's the approach that they want to do, that so be it. But it's just not working. So they can continue. They'll give it another shot probably in 6 months. Talib will pop back up and they'll try to weaponize him against me and it won't work again.
Well, and that's what's so funny to me is I see this happening and I'm like, you really think you're a Nazi sympathizer is a great attack on a black dude? Like,
they also work.
Right, they tried to pull it on Dave Smith, who is a Jew.
A Jew, yeah.
So it's like
survivors.
We're the last guys, right? We're the last guys, right? That you think I was talking about this with actually some of my followers about, man, I must be if I'm a supposed Nazi sympathizer or Nazis follow me, like I have to be doing some pretty sick like mind tricks on these guys because they're looking up to and following a black man. And you think that these guys would hate me. So I'm like pulling the puppetry. How I'm doing it, I don't know. I was like, hey, man, I need to be linking up, I don't know, with the ancient one in Tibet, trying to figure out how to channel all of this, these powers that I have. If I'm able to do that and I'm able to control the minds of people that hate me and they look up to the people the person, or even when you consider Dave Smith, the type of people that you would think these types would hate. Yeah. So I don't know how I'm doing it, but I would like to try to channel that power because I feel like I can change the world if I can get control of that power. If I'm able to do such silly things as such and change people's minds to where they follow the people that they claim to hate.
It's honestly like I laugh every time I see it because one, it's so ludicrous to me, and two, I'm about to watch you just slap at him, and I appreciate it every time I see it. What's funny though is before I just recently moved down to Florida, but when I was up in Pennsylvania, I have ball pythons, and so there was a guy up there that I'd buy my live rats to feed those ball pythons, and we'd talk every now and then. We not a lot, but we were friendly with each other. And the other day he posted one of your videos, and I was like, hey man, I know him. He's like, wait, you know him? I was like, yeah, we swim in the same circles. And, I actually had a failed episode with him a couple of years ago on my show. And so he was like, because he's like one of those that's kind of like in the center from what I can tell. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, come to the dark side. Keep listening to Eric. Come to the dark side. So when I told him that you were coming back on, he was like, send me the link. I love that guy.
I appreciate that. Yeah, man, it happens every now and then. Like somebody reach out to me. I got cousins that reach out to me every now and then. They're like, hey, so-and-so coworker of mine shared your video or something. And it's like, it puts it into perspective really as far as the reach. Cause I think even myself, I tend to underestimate like how many eyes I guess I have on what it is that I do. Yeah. And I think it's important because it's like I've come a long way as far as just being able to position myself in a way that the message can get out is something that I pride myself definitely. I've actually put to task over the last 5 years or so. And to put it in the eyes and put whether it be the podcasting or the videos or whatever, just put it in the eyes of people that, they may never heard it worded like this. They may not know what libertarianism is. They may not know what anarcho-capitalism is or voluntarism or any of these sorts of concepts. They may not understand those. And that's been my thing. And, to see that kind of coming to fruition, and every now and then people that I know say, hey, so-and-so from so-and-so ended up sharing your video. I get cousins all the time that message me and see and highlight how somebody shared like a clip of mine or something that I said. And it's awesome because it's showing that the reach is out there. And ultimately, that's what it's always been for me, is I just want to position myself to get this word out to as many people as I possibly can. If they don't get it now, they may get it, next month, 5 years from now. As long as I can plant a seed in some way, shape, form, or fashion has always been the goal, for what it is that I do and the different sort of things that I do. And why I'm so involved in a million different things with music and all of these different things, because I'm always trying to position myself, more so that word, to get that out there to people that I know otherwise would never hear it, or they're going to hear it funneled by somebody that's going to just straw man the living crap out of it, and call like libertarianism or anarcho-capitalism something that it isn't. So yeah, man, to see that kind of, coming into fruition, man, and I'm still young, so that's what's awesome about it, is that I'm just really getting started as far as my I just turned 30, man. So it's like my political, or more so me being able to position myself is more of a thing that's just really getting going. And, I'm blessed, man, that I've been able to just put my stuff in these people's eyes and ears and so forth.
Oh, and that's one of the things that, I've appreciated about you is like I went to film school for a good period of time. And as a Christian who went to film school, people always, on my side of things, always wanted me to talk up every Christian movie that came out, even though they were all hot garbage. Like every single one of them that's ever been made, just except for The Passion. Yeah. I mean, because Mel Gibson did it.
Right.
But like that was one of those things. I don't do film anymore, but there was the longest time where I was like, Christianity would do so much better with film if they'd actually do a good job, work with excellence, make a product worth using. And a couple of years ago, I was like, oh no, libertarianism is the same way. I'm just going into a second version of this where Lord knows most things are not going to be great. And so then, you, Dave Smith, Malice, different people who do great content. I'm always like, thank God that you're there because I just hope, the people who shouldn't be picking up a video camera don't pick them up and start making libertarian movies, because I couldn't handle it.
Oh man, look, and this is one point that I've driven home. Excuse me, with my audience, and telling them to be involved in other these things. I always say that, look, man, this is a battle culture. And politics is more so the lagging indicator. You can sit here and hate it or love it. That's just kind of what it is. And one of the things that I emphasize when I talk to people about, if they choose to go the route of culture, subculture, and using that to plant seeds, first and foremost, be good at it. That's very important. Like, be good at it. Like, work on your craft, beat on your craft. 'Cause that's what we did. Like, Backwordz, man, we come from a line of successful bands. Like, everybody that joined our band, so we were already vetted. Like, we weren't just a bunch of guys that were like, yeah, we're just going to do a bunch of libertarian music. And that was it. No, we all came from different. I came from Fire from the Gods. You had guys that came from, like the Bad Chapter. All these bands were signed bands that had been around, for a little bit and saw some success. And then we came together and formed this. And that was how we won. It was just one of those things where we made music that we knew people wanted to hear. But the music itself was good, was solid first and foremost. And, that was because we came from that background and we know what it is that we're doing. So before people even knew what we were talking about or knew what we stood for, they liked the music, like no matter what. So that's always been the thing. And this is why I appreciate the people that you mentioned, such as Dave Smith. Dave Smith he's a good comedian. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like, if you separated him from that, he would still be like, if he wasn't a full-blown libertarian or didn't even have that in his material, you would see that he was just that talent that's there. Yeah. He's just good. He's just good at what he does, and that's what's important. It's not enough just to be like, like you mentioned, Christian. We've seen that in music as well. With people there was a sector of individuals or more so bands that were trying to make more Christian related music, and some of it was okay.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a lot of it was really bad. And that's the thing. It's not just good enough to have a message. That's not good enough. Beat on your craft and try to be the best that you could possibly be, because they're not going to listen unless you are good at what it is that you do. So that's a very important thing that I've driven home about people that choose to sort of use culture to elevate their message. Like, be good at what it is, that whatever it is you're a part of, be the best that you can possibly be at it, and be talented, be great at what it is that you're doing, because just having the message alone isn't enough.
Absolutely not. Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. And that's one of the things that's always bugged me, because, you know, politics is downstream of culture. So when we make these types of things, well, I don't make a lot of things yet. My favorite things have been the red pills, and I like to think I did pretty well with the ones I've done so far. But politics is downstream of culture, and the left has a vice grip on, you know, they have a cultural hegemony, you know, and that's what we're fighting against. And so when I see someone like you who's like, hey, we need to be good, not just we need to make it, I'm like, dude, you're speaking my language.
Yeah, it's important. It's very important, man. And that's, I know, obviously that's not saying that to sort of deter anybody from doing it or trying to do it. It's just like, you have to understand the game. And a lot of what we've done as far as a position, also, I'm just talking about the band more specifically. A lot of that was just being great at what it was that we did. Like, it was like, these guys are talented musicians, man. And in a lot of cases, they make me look a lot better than what I am, or sound a lot better, because those guys are really good, man. Our musicians that are in our band are like top tier musicians. Alex, who you hear him singing on a lot of the records, do a lot of the clean sing. He is a phenomenal. He grew up in the church. He is a phenomenal singer. That guy can blow the top off of anything. You give him an acapella, record or obviously lack of music, and he would still blow it out the water. Like, that dude can just really blow. And having him as my right hand man has just been awesome. But that's important. It's important. I'll beat on your craft, and I would encourage people to do that. I'd be like, look, get good at what it is that you're doing first and foremost. You know what I'm saying? Get good at what it is that you're doing, and try to be the best that you can possibly be, and then, you know, start to try to actually implement that and make it come to fruition, like in the way of a record, or in the way of a movie, or in the way of whatever it is that you're doing, content or whatever that you're creating. Start there, though. Get talented, man, and be the best that you can possibly be, because there's a whole swath of other people that you're going to be competing with that may have the worst ideas in the world, but they're at least somewhat good at what it is they do.
One question I had was, as I've said before, I mean, I know that there are people, surprising people, that really like what you do and listen to you. Have you ever had, like, when you've played music or talked to people who just know you from your music, have you had a lot of people go, man, you really made me rethink my philosophy or my politics or freedom and what we have?
Yeah. I mean, one of the best feelings to me in the world, and I know Alex, one of our other like vocal ANCAP in the group, will say this as well. It's a special feeling, man, when you get off of that stage, you know, whether it be on a tour or what have you, performing in front of hundreds of people, and you get off of that stage, you go to the merch table, and you hear someone, you know, they come up to you, they thank you for the music, and then like, look, man, I never heard of what libertarianism was. And then I heard you guys, and I started looking more into it. Or I remember I messaged you a long time ago about what kind of books, and I read like Anatomy of the State by Murray Rothbard, and I appreciate you guys kind of planting that seed or something along that nature. That is such a great feeling for us, because obviously it lets us know that what we're doing is working. But between my messages, dude, between everything it is that I do, I mean, I've had people reach out to me and say that, and it's such a wonderful feeling, because that's what it's about. Hate me all you want. That is what it's about for me, is getting this message out to as many people as possible and having them hear it. And like I said, if the seed doesn't grow, the day they hear it, it may grow down the line. That's good enough for me. If I perform in front of hundreds of people and one person comes out of that like, just second guessing what they've long understood as truth, that's a win. But absolutely, so many people have come up to me before. I mean, I got Chad Prather over at the Blaze TV saying taxation is theft on the Blaze. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, like, this is what it's about with me. You know what I mean? I know, yeah, like, that's what it's about for me. And it's I've had so many people at least never heard it, right? They knew what libertarianism was through a lens of someone that had every intention on making it seem like it was the worst thing possible. And that's a lot of what's going on, certainly when it comes to cultures, that it's just a bunch of weirdos that are just saying what it is not. So they tend to associate it with something that it's completely not. So when they hear it from someone, generally they're like, man, not generally, but, you know, a lot of times they're like, never heard it that way. I agree with that. I said that, look, when I go speak at like college campuses and stuff, one of the things I always lead with is like basic libertarianism. And I have the crowd raise their hand and like not raise their hand depending on the question that I'm answering. And they'll generally agree across the board as far as whatever way that I'm expecting them to be. And I'm like, congratulations, you're actually a libertarian. Yeah. The issue is that a lot of people are inconsistent on some of the principles as when it's allowable to use force, and so forth. So it's getting them to recognize that those are principles that they generally already hold, and extending them all the way to the logical conclusion is more so what it's about. And man, it's a great feeling to hear that from some people and tell me that they've, whether through my music, through a video or something like that, that this was what got them thinking this, or made them become a libertarian. Man, to me, that's what it's all about.
Well, that, and you had a brand new song come out, what, 3 days ago?
Yeah, something like that. It wasn't that 4 days ago or so. It wasn't that long ago. It was a throwaway.
It's called The Great Equalizer, and to sound as wide as possible, I want to say that shit slaps.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it, man. And I appreciate that. That song was a throwaway, believe it or not. We did that song and it just didn't make the album. It's an unorthodox song. It's a song where I do all the cleans. I did like every vocal on that track. I did. Like Alex didn't do anything. Like I did the singing, I did the screaming, I did everything. And it didn't make the album because it was just unorthodox. It was like it didn't seem to go along the like kind of theme of what we were going with, the back and forth, me and Alex on most of the tracks on Veracity. And with this whole ordeal going down, man, it was like I seen all these articles and like, man, so many new gun owners, right? Mm-hmm. So many new people that are first-time gun owners, first time that they've ever got a gun, they've owned a weapon or anything like that. And I'm like, man, this would be a sweet time to drop that song that we never even released. That we certainly weren't going to put it on the upcoming album. So I touched up the lyrics just a little bit, some of the recording just a little bit, and then we dropped it. And it was like, the reception has been nuts. It's kind of one of the more successful singles that we've had. I mean, and it's crazy because we didn't have it. It was a surprise song. It never was a track that was intended to do that well. It was just kind of a, hey, here, thanks for holding off. You guys have been very patient. It's been 3 years since we dropped 2 years since we dropped some music, 3 years since we dropped an album. And so many people enjoyed it. And some people are like, dude, this is my favorite track that you guys have ever dropped. And I'm like, it's kind of difficult for me to respond to that because I didn't expect that. Yeah. Like, it was just like a throwaway song, but a lot of people like it. And if they like it, I love it, you know. So it was fun to get that out there to kind of hold a lot of people off because we have, you know, with this whole COVID thing, we have absolutely no idea when we're going to get back on the road. Like, you know, we don't know. So I think it would be suicide for us to attempt to put out an album here. Like, I think that'd be a terrible idea in this climate, because we don't know when we're going to go on the road. So, we just kind of, we decided, you know what? Let's just throw this out there. And a lot of people enjoyed it, man. And I appreciate all the support for that. Because like I said, it was just one of those things. You're like, hey, why don't you just put it out? Let's just see what happens. And people love it.
Oh yeah. And I'm definitely going to throw a link to at least the YouTube. And if you can,
sure.
Wherever you can purchase it, if you'll send me that, I'll put it in there too. But if you're down, I'd love to let that be our outro song today. Right at the end of the show.
By all means, you ain't never gotta ask me for nothing like that. Just do it.
I feel like we probably share the same thoughts on IP, but
Yeah, do it. I don't care, man. Just do it. Just put it out there. I don't care at all.
So I did have a question.
Gotcha.
If you could fight Tom Morello in a communist versus ANCAP prize fight, what fighting style would you use? And what would your finishing move be?
Oh man, I'm a boxer, man. This is what I grew up doing, so it ain't gonna be no fin. I mean, I'm a southpaw guy, ironically enough. So my strong hand is my jab, even because I'm right-handed. But I fight southpaw. So you think about your power hand being on the backside, but I fight southpaw. Okay. So it's probably gonna be a jab, just a simple jab that's gonna hurt him, and I think it'll put him down. I think it'll put it down. And I wouldn't need even much. It wouldn't need much. Probably not with Tom. Probably wouldn't need much. Just a slight jab would do it, I think.
It's so funny though, because I was thinking about them the other day, because people were getting all frustrated with either him or Alex about saying something against the police with all the George Floyd stuff going on, and people were like, "What machine do you think they were raging against?"
Yeah, exactly. Some people don't seem to know. And it's this weird thing where people seem to, they don't seem to understand, definitely a lot of musicians and what they say, because some of the musicians don't understand what they damn say, half the time. And they're like, this is why it's so easy for them to just be raging hypocrites, and then go support like Bernie Sanders after making music in which they're like government's bad, and they go support the biggest of the biggest government candidates. But we dealt with that too. For people to be like, when I talked about as an example, like looters, and I'm like, looters are bad, or what have you, whatever it is that I said, to get people that be like, oh man, it's crazy how you would talk about the looters, but you won't talk about the state killing a black man. I'm like, dog, have you listened to like the 18 songs that I dropped on this entire subject, where you sleep through all of those? Like, nobody gets to lecture me about, of all people, gets to lecture me about being against what the state's doing to kill people. Like, you have absolutely nothing to stand on. Because for one, I do it all day long. I do it every day, all throughout the year. And I drop so many songs on this particular subject. I'm not mad just because I was told to be mad, but it really just goes to show how people just they listen to what they want to listen to. And it was funny. The guy the other day on my Twitter was like, yeah, man, you've never talked, because this whole defund the police thing was going on. I was like, you never talked about defunding or abolishing the police or anything like that. And I linked this video that I did 4 years ago. That's the title. Like, the title was like, if you want to solve police brutality, abolish the police. Like, that was like the literal title, like in the actual video. It's like, dude, just because y'all started getting mad today does not mean a lot of us don't talk about this year round.
Well, yeah, and I've been a little bit annoyed by it, because it's like autonomous zones, defunding the police. All of a sudden, the leftists have stumbled upon our ideas, and then they're like, hey, let's bastardize the hell out of them and make them big. And it's one of those things where I'm like, one, I've been saying this crap on and off. I mean, like, not as strongly as I have in more recent years, but for 10 years, I've been talking about this crap. And it's like, all of a sudden, just because I don't racialize it, I've not talked about it at all.
That's the thing.
Yep. That's how they
so
operate.
Annoying.
It is.
I was just saying, I feel like some guy who was from Liverpool and heard the Beatles before they got big, and now the Beatles have gotten big, and I'm not a real Beatles fan. But I'm not a real Beatles fan. I feel like they're wholly overrated. So there's some controversy for you. What were you gonna say, Maddie?
I was gonna say the whole. It's not even. So they say if you're silent, you're violent. Especially the color of my skin is white. So if I'm silent or quote unquote silent, I'm obviously committing or endorsing genocide. But it's it doesn't matter that you're not actually silent. It just means you're not saying exactly what they want you to say. And so Jesse and I, my co-host, we put out a podcast episode last week with our other friend Kim, and the title of it was "We're Not Silent, You're Not Listening." And it's just because that I might not be saying exactly what is expected of me to say, bow down, do the ally signaling, try to make sure everybody on the left knows that I'm on your side, I'm one of you, I'm a good person, right?
I'm one of the good white people.
They clearly don't care. How many experiences or how many examples do we have where it doesn't matter? The mob will destroy and eat you anyway. It's just, it's not silent. It's if you're just not choosing to listen to it.
Yeah, they plug their ears, right? They like to pretend. Yeah, it's exactly what they're doing. They like to pretend that you haven't been saying something, and it's they feel as if it's not in their scope, right? They're not through their lens. It just doesn't exist. So you put it perfect when you say that they hijack these ideas. We've been talking about a lot of these ideas, and then they not only just screw them up, but they act as if to sit up here and say libertarians, you see weird comments, Twitter blue check marks, oh, it's funny the libertarians are quiet right now. It's what the hell are you talking about? First of all, when are libertarians ever quiet about anything? But just because you don't see it, and I'm one of these guys, I was because I looked on his page, I was you don't follow, we have no common followers or anything like that. What libertarians do you even follow to come up to that conclusion that libertarians aren't saying anything or libertarians are somehow quiet about a situation? They only see what they want to see. They only see what they want to see. And this really is representative of their entire ideology, such as what's going on with this whole, everybody wants to lift black voices and cater to black people and lift them, amplify what it is that they're saying. Right. Yes, that's what they want to do. I was anybody want to guess the amount of people that have reached out to me to get my perspective on any of this? Zero. But I had to blast all of these. I blasted two publications, Loudwire, and I'll shout them out in sort of a little sense because they published an op-ed of mine that I did. And they didn't do it though until I had to quote tweet them because they covered somebody from Avenged Sevenfold, right? Same the whole entire metalcore, hardcore metal scene, what have you. It's just virtue signaling their tail off right now. That's what everybody's doing. It's so unbearable, but that's what everybody's doing. And instead of reaching out to hey, the one band that has an actual black guy fronting it and getting his perspective on it, they reach out to these corny, skinny, white dudes, and all they're doing is, we have to do much more. And all of this is all they're saying. And I'm saying they're a bunch of cornballs. But nobody has reached out to me until that Loudwire thing popped off. And I quote tweeted them. I was like, hey, Loudwire, you know exactly who we are. You've covered our song. When Statism came out, for 5 weeks, we had the top single on your platform. The top single. So you had to retire us. It was, we went to the Hall of Fame after the 5th week. They're all right, we got to have a new guy. So they took us off. It literally went into the Hall of Fame, their version of a Hall of Fame. So they knew exactly who we were. They covered us minimum 5 weeks, 6 weeks actually. So they cover us. And instead of, reaching out to me, nobody ever reached out. Email, my publicists, our managers, none of them had ever reached out to me. It wasn't until I quote tweeted them. I was like, hey, I'd love to give you my perspective. Then they reached out to me, and then I did the op-ed. Alternative Press, another site. It's covered us. That's really, really prominent in our scene. They've covered us I don't know how many times. They covered us when we were first out. They covered us when we dropped self-ownership. Alternative Press has covered us plenty of times. They even had no issue when what's that band? Straight from the Path, when they dropped that corny song called Good Night, All Right. I tweeted 4 words. I said, sigh, straight from the past 5 words or somewhat, because I was just basically like, oh my God, this may be the worst song that I've ever heard, because it's just like, it's corny as all hell. And they quoted me on that. But then a couple of days ago, they put it's a like, hey, top 20 metalcore, 20 musicians in metalcore and hardcore that are like in the scene, or some black musicians, obviously. And I wasn't on there, but you know who they put on there? My old band is currently still existing. They put Fire from the guy, and it's like, obviously they got blasted like in the comments, like, how the hell do you? Because I laid the blueprint for that band. That band is just doing what we do. Because I did it before I joined band. It's just a copy, right? They do it in that kind of their own way, but it's just, I laid the blueprint for that band because I was in it. And they cover a bunch of bands that a lot of people have never heard of, that obviously we've outsold, have bigger, larger fan base and so forth. They cover all of those guys. And what it's showing is, it's like, to bring this point back home, it's like they see what they want to see, and generally it has to fit a certain ilk. It has to fit a certain like cloth, a certain branding, like, and that's the only way that they particularly will even acknowledge that it exists. And if it doesn't exist within their line of sight, they say that it doesn't exist at all, which is such a very dishonest way. It's like, it doesn't exist. It's like, well, libertarians aren't saying this because I don't see it. It's like, what type of logic is that?
Well, it's kind of like when people were saying there are no libertarians in a pandemic.
Yeah. It's like, what are you talking about?
Still here.
Yeah, it is.
We're all still here, and also
did not die.
Right.
Did not die of COVID. We're still here.
There are also a bunch of people who were like, hey, we obviously need to relax all these stupid laws that have been holding us back so that we can still make money and help people during this time. There was a little bit, coronavirus sucks. The whole deal sucks. Mm-hmm. But there was a little bit of freedom that came out. Suddenly I can order alcohol from a Mexican restaurant and have it delivered to me.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
You know, or like, carry it out with a straw, and, you know, if it gets in your little cup holder in your car and you happen to get thirsty, I mean, it's just there. I'm not condoning anything. Don't tell the state. But I will say, yeah, to-go drinks.
The other day, someone had posted in my group a video of some white girl who went on for like 12 minutes about white privilege and what it was, and teaching people what it was. And like, of course I didn't make it through the whole thing, because the idea of listening to a boring, basic white girl tell me about white privilege just doesn't interest me. But I did wonder, as a black American, when you see shit like that, you see white people doing that, what are your thoughts? Because I feel like I'd be almost insulted.
It is easily like the most cringiest thing for me to ever see when I see that. Because they've done is given themselves a bunch of power they don't have. It's like they delegated themselves. And yeah, there's a lot of black leftists that parade this nonsense along. But imagine being so self-righteous to where you feel as if you can lecture the entire world about experience, right? And just claim this power and privilege and ease of life over everybody else, and say that, well, it's easy for me because of this, and then it's so much difficult for black people to do this because of this. It's the cringiest. So it's like, for me to see that, it obviously is insulting in a sense, because what they're actually admitting, they'll never admit it, but what they're actually, and they're basically admitting that they're superior to black people. Now, that ain't nothing that I agree with. Obviously, I never agree with such a claim. I think that's bogus. Like, absolutely. I had a debate with some guy today, and I was like, dude, none of you guys are more superior to me. I was like, I'm more athletic. I'm better. I'm more than likely better looking than you guys. All of this, like, there's nothing that you can tell me in this regards. And it's like, it's funny with me to see with the band stuff. Like, I know a lot of these band guys are broke, dude. Like, no matter how popular they are, a lot of these guys have no money, man. They get off the tour and they go work at Firehouse Subs. And no disrespect to Firehouse Subs or people that work at Firehouse Subs. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying that I don't work at Firehouse. You know what I mean? And I have more money than them. But for them to sit up here and try to lecture everybody else, including guys like me, that they have some supposed privilege, even though they are usually the ones griping the most about, oh man, life is so hard, destroy capitalism and all of this other nonsense. It's what they're admitting to themselves and to everybody else is that they have power over everybody else. And that's not any power that I gave them. That's not any righteousness that I gave them. That was self-appointed power that they claim to have. And it's such a weird conversation to have because God forbid that I say you're full of crap. These white leftists. You want to see someone, a true racist? You want to see someone that's a racist be black and deviate more so disagree with a lot of these cats when it comes to definitely social political views and so forth. Even today on Twitter, I've been called so many racist, derogatory names by these types, including some of these white leftists. They don't hold no punches in that regards. But yeah, man, it's just a bunch of cringy nonsense, and it's difficult for me to sit there and listen to these people. It just sucks, dude. It just really does suck.
Well, it's like I had kind of a big experience when I was in college because I went on tour with a worship band, and I worked with me and another guy were the sound guys, and this dude was an older black gentleman, and one time we were in a store or a restaurant rather, and some guy had said the N-word. And this like 18-year-old little guilty white person, which my parents didn't really teach me to be guilty. They taught me to, see everyone as, made in the image of God. So that's how my whole life has been. But I got offended for him, and I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And he was like, dude, you don't ever have to apologize to me for something someone else has said. Absolutely. And I was like, okay. And he was like, that is probably more offensive to me than what that dude just said. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, I can take care of myself. I'm a black man. I am not a pet like some of these white liberals want me to be. Yeah. And it was just this whole conversation where I was like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah.
And we had this whole conversation that changed my view. And I was like, he's like, don't be afraid of words. He's like, in fact, for the whole summer, he called me Lil Nigga. And he was like, by the end of the summer, I'm gonna have you using that word. And I was like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
By the end of that summer, I used it constantly with him because I was like, I'm comfortable with you. I know that nothing weird's going on.
Right.
And then I got back to work at Chick-fil-A, and a guy did something stupid, and I almost popped out a nigga, please.
Yeah.
And then I stopped at about and went, I can't say this here. I don't know this guy.
Yeah.
Nuggets.
Hey, man, Nas the rapper said, no matter what color you are, everybody niggas. That's what Nas said. But no, like you're right. You're absolutely right. Where it's like, it's one of those things where you black, and this is a fault of a lot of black folks because they kind of eat this bull crap up. Like, you don't need these folks to speak up on your behalf. I certainly don't need white people to speak up on my behalf. I don't need their validation. This is why I cringe so much at this whole idea of, oh, look at me. Woe is me. I need white folk to speak up for me. And if they don't speak up, they're being violent towards me or some other stupid crap that they've sort of perpetuated. But no, that's how we are. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an individual. I'm a man, a grown one at that. I don't need any help from these weirdos. There's nothing they could do for me anyway. Scrawny weirdos. There's nothing they could possibly do for me to protect me or anything like that. I don't need their alignment or anything. But no, like, you white people, and this goes on black folks like as well. It's like, I have no reason to apologize, to feel sorry for myself, or anything of that nature for experiences that aren't even mine or anything like that. And nobody has to apologize for something that someone else did. Like, that's not, you are an individual, and this is sort of bringing this whole conversation home. That's what it's about. Like, it's like if people can acknowledge individuals as individuals, a lot of this stuff we wouldn't even be griping about, because we'd see wrong and right for what it actually was, instead of trying to tie it to these different groups and social preferences and all these other weird things where people are just going out of their way to be offended, going out of their way to be offended on other people's behalf for the sake of virtue signaling and so forth. And that's not the way to do it. That's absolutely not the way to do it. You are an individual. You have no reason to apologize for anything that someone else did. And I certainly don't. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself for someone else's experience as well, because, again, like this, I'm an individual. You are an individual. We're all individuals here. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's an issue, is that we collectivize it to the point to where we all like try to have experiences that we never have, or try to take credit for experiences. The whole point of You Are You, that song that we wrote on Backwordz on our first album, where we was like, the whole perspective is like, Alex is speaking from, the perspective of a white guy. He's like, he won't be held for he won't be held accountable for things that other people did. And that's the whole hook, is like, we can't take credit for what we've not endured. Like we can't do that. Like it's an illogical thing. Taking credit or taking sort of, you're feeling sorry for yourself for situations that you had nothing to do with, is just such a dishonest way of handling things. And, people should get off of that.
Well, it's like on, do you remember Blackout Tuesday?
When, yeah, of course.
When that
did you feel elevated on Blackout Tuesday?
No, I didn't. I made fun of him and people got mad. I posted, I put a Blackout Tuesday and I grabbed like one of my rifles and I took a picture of it, because it's a black rifle, obviously, too. And nice. I had on all black, and I was like, yeah, Blackout. So people didn't take kindly to that. That I would use that hashtag to do that. I don't give a damn. But nah, man, that sucked, man. Like, it was like all of these people, definitely in our scene, posting black boxes as if this is going to elevate people and do them right. And they want to stand in solidarity. If I hear that word, that and ally, if I hear that word one more damn time, I'm going to lose my mind. But no, that's sort of, how everybody took it and how everybody approached it. And it was such a dishonest way, to do it, because look, social media has become a show. Okay, that's just what it is. It's a damn show where people try to claim that, even if they're claiming to elevate other people, like black folks, they're trying to elevate themselves.
It's their own image.
Right. It's like they're just basking in their ego, right? Mm-hmm. Like, look at me. Like, that's
I'm
really
virtuous.
Exactly. That's the whole approach. It makes me want to barf every time I see it. Yeah. But that's the approach. It's about them. It's like the most self-righteous, egotistical sort of, hey, look at me, like I'm one of the good guys. And that's how they try to position themselves. And it's so easy to see through. It's an entire gimmick, and they get so upset when you call them out on it. Like, dude, this is the only reason that you guys are doing this. And this is sort of some of the stuff that I wrote in the op-ed for Loudwire. And like, dude, some of these groups were the same folks that will argue me up and down. It was two things. I said like taxation and stuff. And these same people within this scene would be like, well, what about roads and what about the police? So I'm sitting here like, now all of a sudden everybody's signaling their tails off because a man was unfortunately murdered by way of the cops. And I'm like, why should I take you guys serious? Like, it's funny, like we have so many new viewership, like our viewership, Backwordz viewership just went through, like hit it. It's almost like the album came out again and people watching that video for self-ownership, which we did 4 years ago, by the way. And you know, that third verse where I'm breaking down, like it's almost like it could have came out today. You know what I mean? As far as me talking about people marching and like, this is the power that you gave these guys and all of these sorts of things. And believe it or not, we got a lot of pushback, and we still get a lot of pushback for the views that we have, man. So for people to sit up here and be like, yeah, I'm an ally, right? All cops are bastards, they say, and all these sort of things. I'm like, dude, for the last 4 years, you have been jumping down our throats for this. You don't get to do that. And you certainly don't get to seem virtuous because all you're doing is telling on yourself. Is that this is just a gimmick for you.
Yeah, when I saw the Blackout Tuesday thing, I had a few thoughts. My first one was actually your words in my head that played, that shit's for losers. and then like past that, I was like, this doesn't look like virtue to me. It looks like submission.
Yes.
Oh, 100%. Like that's a good way to put it. I mean, like I say, they try to berate and bully people into that position as well. Like they try to make you feel guilty because you don't have the position that they have. And they're like, oh, well, you can't, you're a bad person. What do you mean you don't post black boxes or shut up when we tell you to shut up or talk about what it is that we want you to talk about? Like there's a larger conversation to be had about all of this. And until they're ready to have that, I'm not giving them credit for posting black boxes or anything like that. These freaking weirdos. But a lot of them are scared. They're scared, man. Like these guys are like, they're doing this. And in some of the cases they've been bullied. A lot of these corporate entities and a lot of people are like, well, I have to say something because everybody's looking to, all these, SJWs on the internet and stuff. Just like, oh, well, so-and-so didn't say anything about this. And it's like, so what? So what? Like, who cares? Like, who cares? About any of that. Like you're under no obligation. Definitely when it comes to this race thing, look, dude, if you're a good person, you're a good person. You are under no requirement to sit here and try to, you're in no position or no more so you're under no requirement to go out of your way to signal. You've been a good person. You haven't been racist. You haven't been sexist. You haven't been homophobic or whatever isms and phobias that they throw out there. That's not who you are. Why on earth would you need to do something just for the sake of proving that you're not that when you've been living that way? And because someone demanded it, now you need to do it? Absolutely not. You're under no requirement. I encourage you to tell those guys to go screw themselves in the event that they try to demand that you say something on a dime. Like, why don't you say this? You need to do a video. Like I get that all the time. These weirdos like, well, you never did a video about this. It's like, well, just because you said that, I'm certainly not doing one now. Because that's not how I operate. Like I'm under no requirement to sit up here and do something because you demand it. But on a serious note, if you have been a good dude, a good woman, doesn't matter. Like if you're a good person and you've been good to people, you've not showcased any sort of racism. You're under no requirement to sit up here and speak up or anything like that because someone demanded it of you.
I just thought it was hilarious that most of the white people on the planet on that Tuesday decided that the best way to shut the fuck up was to let everyone know, hey guys, hey, look at me. I'm shutting the fuck up.
Yep.
How about you just shut the fuck up?
Yep.
People who are normally inactive, or had been inactive for months, or just all of a sudden needed to appear with a black box. It's like, I hear you, and I'm not supposed to be hearing you today,
Exactly. Right. All right. It doesn't quite make any sense.
I haven't heard from you in a while, and now I have to hear from you. I would have preferred to not.
Yep. It's like they're pointing to themselves saying, look at me, look at what I'm doing. Look how virtuous I am. And they expect to be taken serious, and they shouldn't be taken serious. They shouldn't be taken serious in any regards when it comes to that.
Well, it's I think the most beautiful case of that I saw today was a video of Eric Swalwell.
That freaking guy.
The guy who farted on live television. He was in, I don't know what the meeting was, but he was like, I would like to give up my time for any Republican who would like to unequivocally state that Black Lives Matter. And then someone was like, well, yeah, God, all lives matter. And he was like, I'm taking back my time. I would like any Republican to unequivocally state that Black Lives Matter. So it was a clear, look how great I am, and submit. Good. And it was just insane to watch, because I'm like, this little guy, this little very white boy, is trying to flex on everyone right now.
Unbelievable, man. That dude right there is something else, man. But no, that's how it is. They want to beat you into submission. They want to demand that you do something on their behalf. And when they demand on like you some sort of dog or something, and it's like they want you on command to do what they want you to do. And then it's like they demand, and all that does is incentivize me not to do whatever it is that you do, because now I know that it's going to piss you off. So now I'm not going to do it, even if I had to, you know, I wanted to say it. Now I'm certainly not going to say it because you're demanding me to do it. You know what I mean? But again, like I said before, you're under no requirement to do that. And I would encourage you to tell those guys to go screw themselves in the event that they try to paint you in a corner or try to demand like you're some dog that, hey, you need to say this. Like, nah, like go screw yourself.
Not to mention that the statement, devoid of any other context, Black Lives Matter, is a clearly true statement. And that's what's so brilliant about this plan, about their plan and how they've done this. Because if you put the context back in, there are a bunch of communists behind it.
Absolutely.
That you have to agree with all these different points. Like I was talking to Kim the other day, and I was like, that's the problem with, you know, saying Black Lives Matter, is because I've run into those people where if you say Black Lives Matter, they're like, okay, so trans lives matter as well. And it's like, well, yes, but there's this thing, because according to these people I've read, the Black Lives Matter movement was started by black trans women. And if you don't agree that biologically trans women are the same as women, then you don't believe Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, this thing is way too loaded to just say. And they know that. And it's such a simple statement that if you don't say it, you look like you're an evil person. Well, so that's why I just be like, to hell with that.
Well, the thing is like the bigger they know that, but the majority of people who have been either kind of pressured into saying it, or I don't want to say tricked into saying it, because like, you know, it like you said, if you say it just devoid of context, like it's a statement, yes, it's true, and all good people would agree with it. But a lot of people just have no idea and can't even fathom that there's this bigger picture, that it's purposefully very manipulative, and it's trying to get you to, again, submit to really the state, because all they want to do is grow the state and, you know, further their power by dividing us further. It's just, but you know, you can't put that in a black box. Like you can't put that in a Blackout Tuesday post. And it's just, so one more thought on that. Like my first reaction was, oh my God, I can't submit. Like that's what they want. They want me to submit. Are they coming for me? Like is somebody outside? And it really reminded me of, like, to go back to the experiences you, Tom Woods, and Dave Smith have with like the Loser Brigade. But it's like, remember when Tom Woods didn't sign the "I'm Not a Nazi" petition? And it's just like, well, that's how I felt. Like because I'm not a Nazi, because I'm not signing the "I'm Not a Nazi" petition. I'm not doing your stupid black post.
Yeah, no, perfectly put. No, but that's how you got to handle those guys. Like, you don't get to tell me that on demand. And it's like, obviously, look, there's layers to it, right? There's layers to Black Lives Matter and a movement and an organization. There's layers to it, and you're under no obligation to support that anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I just did a video. One of my more popular videos over the last week is why I specifically don't support this movement, because it's a movement centered around kissing white people's ass or begging them to validate or acknowledge you. I'm not interested in that at all.
Yeah. That's just for losers.
Yeah,
Who has
exactly.
time for that?
Yeah, you know, I'm not interested in that, begging for white people to accept me, acknowledge me, access to their resources and stuff. No, that's for absolute losers, man. On a serious note, it's for losers. So, you know, I'm under no requirement because they want me to say something to say that, considering that I know it's a little more nuanced. I know that there's levels to this, man. There's layers to it. And just sit up here saying the statement because you want me to say a statement it's not how it works. And again, if you're a good person and you know that, you know, hey, I don't treat people bad because they're black, for what reason should you be having to say that on a demand like that?
Well, yeah, one of the fun, like, there's so much going on right now. I think, honestly, with the police and unarmed black men and unarmed anyone being shot by them, I do feel like we're kind of in a blowback loop right now. That's my take on the situation. Is, of course, what was his name? Rashard Brooks? Was that the guy who got shot in Atlanta? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just, you know, the police do too much, someone dies, people rise up, police do too much. I mean, it's just back and forth. But, like, you know, with CHOP or what's it? What is it called?
Chaz.
I think it's
Chaz.
Yeah,
CHOP.
I think they changed it to CHOP.
I think it's transitioned.
Yeah. They didn't want to be actually autonomous. They had to change it to the
occupied zone.
It's like no, what did they call it? It's like it's like official protest or something. It's something like that. Because God forbid if they're autonomous, they don't want to deal with all of the other stuff that the stuff that comes with it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and of course they still want the United States welfare state. Of course they still want that. So they can't be autonomous. They have to be. It's like, I forget. It's like it's something protest now is what CHOP stands for. But yeah, like those weirdos out there. I thought today though I saw some video where like they were actually starting to break some of that stuff up.
Really?
I heard that the Hells Angels were headed up there to break it up, but I didn't hear anything else on that. That would be entertaining as all hell.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something? That would end in a situation that I know they for sure don't want. That's for sure.
Well, one of the things that I noticed with all of that going on is that, like, the leftists on the ground, you know, like the idealists and people like that they are calling to defund or abolish the police, which I'm all about. I mean, I'm all about that. But if you actually pay attention to the press, the corporate press, you see that the elites are going, no, they don't mean defund the police. They mean this, and this. And there was one op-ed that came up written by a black dude that was like, no, we mean defund the police. I'm like, hey, at least there's one of them out there. That's honest.
No. What they're trying to do is like, and this is what I'm interested to see how this plays out over the course of the next month. This is the sort of behavior that Democrats have fostered, specifically like mainstream leftism, because they're useful idiots for them. But you're starting to see that, you know, even in like some of the phrasing that they use and stuff, it's like they're trying to convince themselves and other people that more extreme end that communism or that wing doesn't exist. It's not really there. Yeah. They like to pretend that that's not the case, but it absolutely is the case. Mm-hmm. But if it blows up in their face, because what that does is it turns like more moderate people off. Yeah. Like, you know, like my mother, who may be a more moderate Democrat, is like, I don't want to be associated with this nonsense, because she's seeing that. But that's what they fostered. That's kind of the culture that they've allowed to exist, because they want to use them against the opposition.
Right. And then they have the people that say this and they're like, but what we really mean is this more moderate position that you can accept. Yeah, but exactly. I also don't believe leftists who say that police should be defunded or abolished simply because the sword of the state is what gets people like us to swallow their agenda. Their crap. Mm-hmm. They need the police. They need the jackbooted thugs at the end, because how else are they going to implement their bullshit?
Dude, that's why they're saying, like, when you listen to what they want to implement out of the whole, when they say defund the police, it's all a fraud. You know what I mean? It's like they want to replace it with like this sort of quasi state, right? Like it's the woke police is what they more so want to replace it with. And they notice they never talk about people keeping the money, people not getting taxed. That's never what they discuss. They just want to reroute the funds to what it is that they want to reroute the funds to. So it's a shakedown. That's why what I called it was like, I was just talking defund the police. It's a money laundering scheme. And what they're trying to do is reroute the funds that everybody's getting robbed, from, cause notice that's not even on the table. Notice none of them, even the extreme guys, what's not on the table is not being taxed. That's not even anything that they bring up. It's not even on. Right. That's not even why? Because they want that money. And they want to use it to, again, fund whatever. Woke police, fund the losers that have useless degrees that don't amount to anything. So they want to feel like they're valuable. So they want to fund these guys, social workers, and so forth. They just want to reroute the funds. What's not on the table is people keeping up their money. They're not keeping their own money. They're not talking about like marketized forms of defense or security or anything like that. That's not even within the realm of discussion. That's why I call it what it is. It's a money laundering scheme. That's exactly what it is, a fraud.
Right. If everyone that we knew and all of those people actually wanted to make a change, they'd just stop paying their taxes. You know? Yeah. That would be the statement to make, to go, we will not pay you to do this job because you're not doing it right. No one will ever do that because only a few of us believe that taxation is theft.
Yep.
But imagine how much strength there would be if there was a big enough contingent of people that said, you know what, you don't get my money anymore. Period.
Yep.
That'd be nice.
Simple as that. But again, that's why, I shouldn't take them serious. Nobody should take them serious when it comes to the things that they claim to be for. You know what I mean? Don't take them serious. Don't take them serious. Don't take them serious at all. When they try to, again, perpetuate this nonsense and say that they are like, oh, we are for these folks. We want to defund the police. We want to do all these are catchphrases that always have multiple meanings. And generally, it ain't good. It ain't what they want to replace it with. This is why I said on the other side of this, it could be worse because, they're not thinking of free markets. They're not thinking private property rights or anything like that. They just want to strong arm people to do what they want them to personally do. And what they feel should be right. But they don't, it's not the stop of the strong arm. It's like, we rather strong arm you to do this. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think that there's an end to this that doesn't include more centralization of police.
Oh, for sure. And
sucks, man.
Another poetic piece of this is that if more and more money gets diverted or taken away from going to local law enforcement, like those layers, more immediate layers around communities, cities, states, whatever, it's going to go to the feds. And I thought Donald Trump was a Nazi and like that all these people hate Donald Trump and, he's just rounding up people and putting them in concentration camps. But let's make sure he is in charge of the National Police Force.
Yeah, and that's how you really segue in dictatorship. But that's what they're segueing in. Like they
want a dictatorship. They just don't want Trump.
They just
don't want Trump in charge of it, but they want a dictatorship.
Yeah, bingo.
100%.
Perfectly put. That was perfectly put.
Well, I think that was a fantastic conversation, and I really appreciate you coming on, Eric. I'm really happy to actually have a recording that'll go out this time. I'm so stoked.
Oh, man. Again, man, like I say, man, I'm glad we can finally make it happen again. And I appreciate you guys having me on. And, yeah, let's do it again. With whatever, man. Just reach out to me. I know it's been a minute. And I appreciate you having me on. Like I say, we can do it again. You too, Maddie. Like, whenever you guys need me, just give me a holler.
Yeah.
Awesome. Before we go, could you tell people what you're most excited about and where they can find you the easiest?
Yes. I have a lot of things in store. I'm doing a lot of Blaze work. If you go to Blaze TV, you'll be able to see me popping up on so many different shows, and so forth. But obviously on my YouTube, Young Ripper 59, over the last year, my YouTube has grown to an area that I would have never thought it'd be in.
I see your plaque back there.
Yes. I finally got one of those last year. I believe was when I finally got my YouTube plaque after reaching 100,000 subs. That's something that I would have never imagined doing. I've been YouTubing. I'm a young guy. I've been YouTubing since I was 16. And it wasn't until I got to this point. So, I appreciate everybody and their support and whatnot. But of course, you can go to Young59 and, if you want to check out my band and keep an eye on us, Backwordz, BACKWORDZ. We're live on all major digital platforms. Like you mentioned, the new song is out, called The Great Equalizer. So if you want to check that out on all major digital platforms, iTunes, Spotify, whatever, go jam that, man. And, like I say, the continued support is where it's at Eric D. July on Twitter. That's where I'm at. If you want to see me make leftists mad, by all means, go follow me over there. And like I said, man, I appreciate all the support from this community, man. You guys have been absolutely amazing to me. I'm really looking forward to what we can do going into the next year.
Awesome. And as always, you can find Maddie on Twitter at Vixens Voluntary, on Instagram at Voluntary Vixens, and you can email them, I believe, at voluntaryvixens@gmail.com. Did I get all that right?
Yes.
And for me, just type this is MLGA, just anywhere. Throw at gmail.com at the end. It works. At MLGAnetwork.com. That works. That's how you find me. Once again, thank you so much for coming on, Eric. And to play us out will be the new song, The Great Equalizer. And as always, stay sane.